Melody, my God, how you doing? This is what I want to know. Yeah, how you doing? You guys got me. Oh, man. Shower, so he forced me out the door.
I'm not sure how surprised he was when he couldn't get in his family room this morning, and it was his family room, but his daughter Jen was trying to get the sneakers taken out to hook up the computer, because they do have a nice slideshow of photographs of Bob through the years. Some of you have contributed to those slides, and I'm sure you'll see them as we eat. But we were delayed because I just could not get him out of the house, okay? But we should begin, as we always do in the Barton household, with silent prayer. But I think we should all bow our heads and be gracious to God for this time together. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come together and to honor and celebrate with a son, a brother, a father, an uncle, a godfather, a boss, a co-worker, a friend, a neighbor, a lover.
Whoa. You didn't tell her that, did you?
Now wait a minute here, Roasty hasn't started.
Oh, you, that's right. Amen. Talking about men.
Heavenly Father, you have taught us that we are created in your image, and then we look at Bob. And when we look at Bob, we know that you have a sense of humor. And we ask you to be present today with us to share in this humor. The laughter is the medicine that you have given to the human race. And we thank you for the life of Bob and his gifts of the comebacks and the one-liners. We know that no matter what stories we're going to tell, he's going to be able to come back with a bigger one for us. But we'll be patient, Lord. We ask you to be present. Bless the food that we're about to eat. We hope that it will be nourishment for our bodies as well as our souls. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Oh, P.S. Father, keep everyone safe on their trips back home, whether it's today, tomorrow, or Monday. Keep us all safe. Amen.
Unless you're silent prayer. That's what I would.
My children have requested that we keep this moving along. So I think you all know, if you know Bob, he is a man of faith. And instead of inviting the whole St. John's congregation, I just invited Meg Keenan, who is the superintendent of the, used to be called CCD, for those of you who no longer are, who are not Catholic. It's now RE program, Religious Education. When Bob was young and he had to take his first communion, they always have to go to a reconciliation. You know, this is where you go before the priest and you confess your sins. And now this really bothered Bob. He couldn't think of what to confess. But he finally, after many sleepless nights, came up with one. And he sat in that confessional booth, and he said, "Father, forgive me, for I have sinned. I have committed adultery." Now, this was before the age of pedophilia with Boston Archdiocese, but the priest jumps up and runs out and opens that, confessional door and says, "My son, you're only 7 years old. How could you have committed adultery? Do you even know what adultery is?" And he said, "I think so." "Well, what is it?" "Well, sometimes I don't like adults." Meg, with that, are you ready to roast him a little bit?
I don't know.
Hello everyone, my name is Meg Keenan, and it's a pleasure to be here to celebrate Bob's birthday with him. I have to tell you what, I was a little skeptical when Sallie said that she wanted me to roast you about your religious participation. Having been raised a strict Catholic, I thought, oh, that's a little sacrilegious. So, and Bob is one of our most faithful volunteers, so hopefully after I finish today, he'll still continue to volunteer.
Don't want to get paid.
Bob has been actively involved at St. John's Church in Attleboro for many, many years. And he has worked with RCIA, Religious Education, Bible Study, the Renew Program, the Hospitality Center Building Committee. He narrates the Christmas show every year and our 8th grade retreat team. And one time we were at a meeting and somebody said, "Does Bob actually have a job?" So some people said, "I think he's an architect and he builds skyscrapers." So I said, "I think he's involved with construction." And somebody else said, "Well, he drives an awful big car, but I'm not really sure what exactly what he does." So when we were brainstorming about something at church, about something that we were going to take on as a new project, we always say, "Let's get Bob." Because Bob readily agrees all the time. We don't even have to say what his last name is. They already automatically know what we're doing. Bob faithfully comes to Religious Ed each week, and he works with a group of 8th grade students, which is really a blessing to us that he's willing to work with all of these kids. And he's not afraid to use his size, his demeanor, and his stature to intimidate both the kids and the adults to help serve God and others. One of Bob's favorite phrases is, "It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission." And it's worked pretty well so far. Each year we have a parent meeting for our incoming 9th grade students with their parents, and Bob gets up and he says to the parents, "I have to tell you, this is the best group of kids I've ever worked with," and he says it to every year's group of parents. Each year when we have our Easter Vigil, Bob is asked to introduce all of the people who are going to celebrate the sacraments. In Monsignor Hoy, our former pastor, always wanted to keep it short. And he would say, "Now Bob, you don't have to tell their life story." And Bob would say, "Okay, Monsignor," and then he would get up and proceed to tell their whole life story, which was okay. We had an instructional mass one time, and none of the kids wanted to be altar service because they made fun of each other, so Bob volunteered, and Monsignor said, "He's the tallest, biggest altar server I've ever had. I had to look up at him." So that was pretty neat. And he's the only teacher in our religious education program that doesn't have to have a book for the students because he knows just the Bible just about practically by heart. And his Bible is well worn, and the kids, when they come into the class, say, "Where's the book?" "Well, you don't need a book. When you finish with me, you'll know what to do." Last month, we had our family mass. Once a month, we have a family mass, and the little children are invited to come up and sit on the rug, and the pastor will do the homily geared for the little kids. So I asked Bob if he and his 8th graders would be willing to prepare for the homily and give us some good ideas. So the first person that he went to was a spiritual consultant, none other than Sallie. And I said, "What can I do to bring the message home about the Beatitudes?" And they came up with this great idea where he had a group of 8th grade students come to church, stand in front of the whole congregation, which I don't know how you got them to do. And he had this giant mirror, and the idea was that you were going to turn your life around. Jesus was going to turn your life around with the Beatitudes. And he had his kids stencil words backwards so that when they looked in the mirror, you could see that they faced front. And we always sent home like a little trinket or a toy or some kind of an item to bring the message home. So I said to Bob, we have probably about 150 kids that come and sit up on the rug. So Bob got about 500 mirrors. So I brought a mirror for each of you. Take home today, so you can turn your lives around. So Bob, I just would like to wish you a happy birthday. Thank you for including Carolyn Cates is with me as well. My husband is traveling this weekend, so he said, "May go without me." And just happy birthday, and thank you for your dedication and service. And that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I know. Very nice.
You can either hand these to people or you can throw it at them.
No, no, no.
You
Thank you, for those of you who know me outside of my... Put it down! Now you know why, those who know me outside of church know why I'm not going to the netherworld afterwards. So.
Let us not forget we have come together to
Help save Bob.
Okay, our next speaker said that she was so happy to know, hon, that you were ignorant about the party. Except I guess he wasn't so ignorant. But it's his...
I was.
This was a surprise. Oh, okay. This is his youngest sister, and my introduction to her was the fact that he went out and bought a Patriots football helmet for her for a Christmas gift. Oh!
All right. As the youngest of the 7 magnificent... All right. As you can see, I am much younger than Bobby. I was a mere baby at 8 years old when Bobby took off for the Rocky Mountains, so you'll have to understand that my perspective when I look at this skyscraper of a man is always from looking up from the ground level. I'm sure you've heard how competitive the Barton family is, and I blame part of that on the precedent that was set by the eldest of the Bartons. And so as the youngest, and I look out at the horizon and see what my future may behold for me, I immediately had to eliminate the middle children. Unfortunately, they are all 5 middle children, and they have their own issues that will never be resolved. You shoot for a tot, you know? So my earliest recollection of Bobby was a little bit of a combative situation the first time I took him on. We were actually on the infamous trip across country. We were going to California. And he must have been in the doghouse with the family because he was in charge of watching the 3 little girls, as you were known, which consisted of myself, Sister Susan, and Cousin Mary, both 6 years old. I was 5. Given that Bob's demeanor was rather crass and irritable, he wouldn't let us do squat. He wasn't going to let us look sideways at him. But I took him on. And I decided to take a trip inside the general store, which did not please Bobby. I was on hiatus, he took me on, he admonished me, yelled at me, much the same as I would in any given situation. I was kind of a brat. And essentially it was the last final act of defiance, had it been that I did it to his face and not his back, as he turned around, that started the competition between the 2 of us. as you can see, I'm quite the speaker. And my next memory of Bobby was his Eagle Scout. Bobby built a church, go figure, to earn his Eagle Scout. As a family, we took the trip into the mountains to go see this grand dedication to the savior of our country and our universe. It was beautiful. I was 5 again, maybe 6, I don't know, I was little. I remember not really respecting the chapel, as they might call it, wondering when we could get into the woods and deal with, you know, the other stuff that's around here. But I remember being called in from playing in the backyard. My uncle, who was the grand poobah, or I guess the scoutmaster, as they prefer to be called, of the scouts, pulled me off the play yard and said, "Hey, can you read?" I said, "Of course I can read." You know, he handed me a speech to which I was supposed to deliver that evening to give Bob his Eagle Scout. I have no idea what it said. I didn't write it. I'm sure it was beautiful, but it started me on my career of public speaking, and therefore I look at it and say, yeah, he got his Eagle Scout, but look at me at 8 years old. I am now a public keynote speaker. Right before he left for the academy, there was another situation which I'm sure others will elaborate. I won't bore you with the details. But it was a sunny afternoon. We had a brand new pool in the backyard. Bob decided to plant his face in the slope of that pool. I was at the back door where the laundry machine was, doing my own laundry at the tender age of 8 years old. And I remember clearly Bobby coming out of the pool, red-faced, all bloody, and he's dripping, and he looks through the door quite not panic-stricken, no tears, you know, "Hey, give me a towel," and there I am, handing the towel that was mine for that cross-country trip. It was orange, it was red, it was beautiful. And I looked at him and I said, "Give me a towel." I'm like, "This towel?" And actually on that one, I must say I lost the competition. I surrendered the towel and I told him to keep it, you know. At that point, I think he saw from that little interchange that he had quite the competitor in me. And I think it was kind of where he decided he had to go off to the Air Force Academy because he could see and feel my footsteps coming up behind him, and he was never going to be able to, you know, surpass me as we continue on. I remember the day he left for the Air Force Academy. Again, I was 8. Everything happened when I was 8. We were at the airport. I believe it was a sunny Sunday afternoon, pretty much like today. We were all lined up against the plate glass windows of the airport. It was pretty empty. And I remember looking down at Mom and Dad, and they're like, "Oh, wave to Bobby." And you see this hand outside the 747 window, and we're like, "Yeah, all right." Look over at Mom, she's crying, so hey, cue the tears. You know, there I am. Oh, okay, the good daughter, the compassionate one will cue the tears. So we start crying, "Oh, hi, Bobby." Those lasted about as long as the plane was out of sight. And I do recall turning to the parents and saying, "Okay, so what's for breakfast?" You know? So that earned me the Emmy. It was an Academy Award performance, much unlike Bobby's attempt at Calamity Jane, but I'll let others tell that story. It was a gutty performance by Bob, I will admit, though. So he's off to college, and I won't digress too much, but understanding that he took off to try and, you know, find himself and realize that, you know, maybe the way he was competing was not getting him anywhere. I think he tried for the first time in his life the subtle approach, because Bobby is usually the bull in a china closet when it comes to competition. I don't know if you've noticed. Usually? Usually. But he seemed to have picked my name out of a hat that Christmas and decided to come home with what the only thing that an 8-year-old girl could want for Christmas, and I realized at that point that, hey, he's either playing me, or he really actually does know I exist. And He came home, it was my Christmas. He outdid Santa Claus that year, giving me a book on college football, a helmet, right-sized, I will admit, and a football. And to that day, I said, oh, hey, this guy isn't so bad. You know? So I started to keep an eye on Bobby, and I recall, the sisters and brothers, again, on the competitive side of things, we used to taunt Bobby about the fact that he learned how to pronounce his R's. It was very interesting to us that he came home with a foreign dialect. It seems that rather than parking his car in Harvard Yard, his dorm was so near the North Gate that he could walk to the bars. Led by Ken, who is the new leader of the regime of the Seven in Bobby's absence, you know, we made sport of the Bobby talk. However, I actually mastered it, and I must say that also Ken said, hey, you know, we Bostonians, once we get outside of New England, we sound like idiots, you know? So I must thank Bobby for that. As we go forth, you know, the competition, you know, it starts to mount. You know, the outstanding squadron commander, you know, how do I compete with that? You know, I had to go to college. Dad drove me 45 minutes each way to college. You know, and what is that anyways? I don't know. Outside of the oh, sorry, I digress. At school, you're at a 4.0. What do you do with that? You know, why even bother following that? And lastly, you know, he thought he got us when he actually, in the lifetime decision, when he decided to marry Sallie, and he put that eldest title out of reach. He decided to... I'm sure he thought he had me. Actually gave him away on my wedding day when he turned to me and said, I'm so glad you married Jay. Now I'm not the oldest. And so not only have I surpassed him as being the youngest and probably the brightest, I am now the oldest by team. Happy birthday, Bob.
Oh, I have a story about Murph for years. And Bob would say, you know, it is just wonderful and delightful to come home and you have two children there who love you and adore you. They run up to you. They look to you as their role model in life. You're athletic to them. You're the breadwinner. Do you know what that's like, Tom? And Tom came back and said, well, gee, Bob, I really don't know. Bob says, well, I'm going to tell you, Tom. You came into the wrong house.
I actually know Bob on the professional side. I've been with Bob for 20 years. That's what we're talking the other night, Bob, right? Over beers?
Yeah.
20 years. The only reason I'm here with Bob, it's open bar. I've been bought a beer with Bob for 20 years. But, we see the religious side of Bob on the job sites too when I've been around. Because lots of times he'll walk in and he'll say, oh God, how did that happen? But, but way back when I first met Bob, pretty good fit together. The way it all came down is Bob and I were on a job site right here in Norton. And we're working away, and all of a sudden the carpenter cut his finger off. He says, oh my God, Bob, we got to get this guy, we got to get some help. So we get the guy outside in front of the building. We're all sitting there. Everybody's around, Bob and I are down, we're putting pressure on the finger and everything's going good, but this guy needs an ambulance. Bob, we got to get an ambulance for this guy, we got to get him down. You know, he's losing a lot of blood here, something's got to happen. So anyways, what happens is, we're sitting there, we're on the corner of Eucalyptus in Elm Street. Almost over to Elm Street. So I says, hey Bob, I says, you know, the ambulance guy's asking us where we are. We're on Eucalyptus Street. And I don't know how to spell it. So Bob says, hey, we'll just drag him over to Elm Street. I've been with Bob ever since. Bob's a good guy. I got a lot of stories about Bob that I can't tell because now Sallie's here. But no, it's always been a good time with Bob, and I look forward to the next 20 years with you, Bart. All right, buddy? Love you. You're starting to get ready here, Bart.
My daughter put some names down here, so I assume that you knew what order you're going in. Is that right? No. Oh.
That's just rumor.
Rumor.
People are talking.
Okay, well, let me introduce the next person. I suppose this person has spent the most amount in the bedroom with my husband besides me. And that's his Air Force roommate, Ole.
Tough speech after that altar boy thing. I know this would be a scandal for the Barton family, but my roommate Bart, for 3 years at the Air Force Academy, he was not a CE major. He only minored in CE. He majored in water fighting. And I was told to keep this.
You were the instructor, though.
I was. I taught him everything he knows, but he became a monster. Anyway, there was this 500 nights from graduation. We had this big celebration, and Bart, of course, would not miss out on that. We went and had a few beers. 500 nights from graduating our junior year, and the freshmen, trying to help us celebrate, decided to take these shaving cream cans, open the bottom with a can opener, and throw them in our rooms, and it left like 3 inches of foam in the rooms. And Bart and I were about the only ones in the class that were even remotely happy about this. Everyone thought that they were messing up our night. You know, everybody had a few beers, we had to study for the next day. We weren't really ready to be cleaning up our rooms for 3 to 4 hours. Anyway, Bart and I, we thought it was a great trick, until we found out that there was a senior that supplied the shaving cream cans for the freshmen. If it was the freshmen that did it, it would have been a great deal. Anyway, as some of my classmates here will attest, it took a while to clean up, and when we did find out that this guy who had moved into our squadron, he got kicked out of his squadron and moved into ours, and he looked a little bit like a leprechaun, and he thought that he could defend himself from our class. He was in the shower, taking a shower. There were 8 stalls going straight back. And he was in the last shower stall with hot water, and all the rest, he crisscrossed cold water on all these showers, thinking that it was this impenetrable, boundary that we couldn't get through. So most of my classmates, and they'll attest, they were right there. We walk in, we've got wool shirts on, we've got our ties on, wool pants, and everyone just goes, well, I guess we can't get Milligan now. We'll have to come back some other time. Bart and I, we got our shoes on, we got our clothes. We just walk right through the cold water, grab this poor guy. We take duct tape. We found Afro Sheen, which was one of our black classmates had left in the shower. We kind of greased him up with that stuff, taped him. He's still butt naked at the time. And we took him with duct tape and carried him down 4 flights of stairs. 4 flights of stairs, and we brought him down to the, it was the first year for women at the Air Force Academy. We brought him down to the women's dorm or area. And he was so slicked up, and we almost dropped him several times going down the stairs. And that would have been really nice.
He was squirming.
And it was very cold that night, too, so it wasn't a good showing for Mr. Milligan. Anyway, to protect the women at the academy, they had these doors. They had these fire doors that were closed. So we took him with his head and rammed him through the doors and slid his body into the dorm, and of course yelled the first thing we could think of, fire! So we ran up to our rooms, and of course, we're in soaking wet clothes. We just dive under the covers thinking that someone's going to come up and there'll be repercussions from this. Anyway, we waited, nobody came, we kept waiting, nothing ever happened, but the poor guy who gave the shaving cream to the freshmen ended up getting written up for CDB, which means you are not allowed to leave the base for like 6 months, and you had to march for 36 hours with the rifle. Anyway, he had to do all that because he got nailed for inciting a riot. So. Another example of our water fighting skills was, it was our sophomore year. And we knew a lot of the freshmen, which we weren't supposed to fraternize with. We ended up being pretty good friends with a large group of them, and I was probably in trouble by Ernie and some of the other people for our close relationship with the freshman class. Anyway, they decided to declare war on Barton and I. They thought they could take on Barton and I. And that was a huge mistake because we were upperclassmen. We could walk where we wanted to. We could get the keys to all the rooms in the squadron because sophomores took care of the keys for the squadron. And these poor freshmen were trying to wage war with us. And we just kept going in their rooms with 5 big garbage pails, 5-gallon garbage pails, and dumping them on their beds or whatever. We had access to all the keys. So it was working out really well until there were some freshmen that were trying to get us. And Bart sees that they've got a bunch of weapons built up. We dive into our room, and unfortunately one of our classmates who wasn't here, he dove into the room also, and it was Keith. And Bart, being the diplomat that he is today, let me backtrack. Keith's was a really nice guy, but he didn't like to take showers. And Bart would always make some type of comment to him. Anyway, we get to the room, and I'm thinking Bart will at least be calm. I'm offering him some Oreo cookies, offering him, just being nice to someone in the room. Bart goes to the window. It's like 2 degrees outside. He goes to the window and opens the window and starts doing stuff like this. And he holds his breath for like 3 minutes, and then he goes. So anyway, the war that we did wage on the freshmen was very successful, but I think we lost that battle because we had an hour of quesadilla in our room, and Bart never said a word. All he did was breathe. And some of the people were talking about how Bart's very diplomatic. Well, that was one of the cases where it was beyond his ability. The next story happened, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. I come into Boston, I used to come into Boston quite often in Providence, and out of any of my friends anywhere in the world, it doesn't matter what the situation is, it doesn't matter if there's a snowstorm or he's working late, Bart will always pick me up at the airport. So I showed up at the airport and I noticed Bart was looking pretty good. He had a suit and tie on and looking pretty spiffy. I get out to the car and Sally's in the car. Usually, we go out to their house and just relax at the house for a while, and Sally's all dressed up in a really stunning dress. And we end up driving to the chart house. It's a beautiful place, and I'm pretty impressed. We sit down, and they have champagne, and I'm just going, this is really nice, Bart. This is great. So after the dinner's almost completely over, he looks at Sallie, his lovely wife, and says, "Well, honey, happy anniversary." So I don't know of any other friend or perhaps idiot that would have invited his roommate from college on his 10th anniversary. So that was pretty impressive.
15.
15. They never forget, do they? That's where I lost his tooth. And it wasn't Bart. Anyway, I just wanted to thank Bart for being such a great friend. There just aren't too many people in the world that would give you the shirt off their back or step in front of a bullet for you, but Bart is one of those guys. He's just an incredible friend, and I think everybody in this room understands that, or they wouldn't be here. He's got a wonderful family. He's always put incredible pride in his beautiful bride, and his 2 kids, Bobby and Jenny, have always meant the world. I got to listen to your stories just like you got to listen to my stories, so it goes both ways. Anyway, he's always had his priorities straight, and I'm so proud and honored to be your friend. And I know this is kind of cliche, but it definitely works here. If a man's wealth was measured by his friends, you'd be a very wealthy man. So we're really appreciate everything you've done.
Since you didn't get served your meal yet, maybe you can sneak it in. Of course.
Okay, I'm going to go through a little bit of history with Bob, kind of how we met and kind of how we grew together. But Bob, it's been 33 years we've known each other. So, and the first time that I met Bob, you can imagine we're thinking of going to the Air Force Academy. We're juniors, and Hampton Air Force Base, pretty much everybody knows where that is. They had a little kind of perspective cadet night. So my dad and I drove up there and walked into the lobby of the officers club, and there's this kid in a in a Needham jacket, and I think they're red. Leather jackets, is that right?
Red.
In a royal.
Well, see, memories fade as you get older. So. Okay, and I'm sure it probably wasn't Boston, it was probably Robert from Kenny, I suspect. But, so Bob and I kind of talked a little bit while we were there, and we saw the video about the academy. And then I didn't see Bob again until about probably the next fall. We started then having to go for our physical fitness test again in Hanscom. And 300 kids show up for this physical fitness test. And, you know, Bob and I end up being like 3 people apart. I think Mr. Barton was there with Bob, my dad was there. And we're like 3 people apart in this group of 300 kids going through this line. And I think Bob borrowed his dad's shorts, I think.
Yeah. I was always bragging.
But you know, Bob and I, we go through the line. You have to do 5 different events, and probably like 4 or 5 kids ahead of us is this kid that's got like hair all over his body. You know, and he's got bulging muscles, you know. And one of the events is to throw a basketball. You kneel at the end line of a basketball court. You throw a basketball as far as you can. Most people can get it beyond half court, you know. This kid hits the wall on the other side of the court, you know. Well, I never saw him at the academy later, so all brawn, probably no brain. And then the next time I saw Bob was probably a couple months later. We were in Senator Brooks' office. People might remember Senator Brooks. I guess I'm dating myself. And Bob's probably, I can't remember if he was before me or after me, but it turns out, you know, again, there's about 20 kids going to show up for this interview, and Bob and I run into each other. We're within a couple kids of each other in the anteroom waiting for the interview. And Bob's there in this suit, and I think it was Uncle Bob's tie he probably borrowed. That one. So Bob was always borrowing things, and
It's the same one.
And so I'm thinking during this whole time, you know, here's this kid, I didn't know him from Adam. But, you know, if he ends up going to the academy, I've got this friend, you know, I mean, we're kind of like an acquaintance, but we've seen each other a few times. And so I didn't see him again until we got to the academy. We go through our basic cadet training, and during that process, you get to go and do some testing. You're trying to test out of some courses. And so you go into these lecture halls, and you take the test. And so one day I'm finishing my test, and I look up, and there's this big lug, you know, he's coming up, he's just dead, you know, he's walking up the stairs, and I say, oh, he made it here, he's here at the academy, great, I got a friend here, you know. So I'm thinking, great, I got this wonderful friend, you need a friend at the academy, you don't have that many. When you're a freshman, you're kind of, the guys you're with is like 22 or 25 of you, that's your whole world your freshman year. All the other freshmen in all the other squadrons, you don't hardly even know them. Now, Bob was in a different squadron than me at that time. So I hardly knew him, but I knew him, and this is, you know, my friend. I mean, I've seen him all these times. So we go through our freshman year, and in the beginning of your sophomore year, you get assigned to a new squadron, and that's where I got assigned to these great guys here, and Bob as well. And so the first day, we're moving into a new squadron, and we're walking down the hall, and here Bob is there, and I'm going, wow, this is great, you know. And he walks down the hall and goes, Bernie, how are you? And so this whole time I thought, he's this guy's gonna be my friend, he didn't even know my name. So anyway, I had to proceed to tell Bob, I think the next 3 years with this guy, I gotta tell him that my name is Ernie and not Bernie. But we gotta cut through that. I guess so much so that Bob has been I would consider him my best friend. I'm glad to hear that he feels the same way. You know, he's the best man at my wedding. He's actually my son's godfather, but it's really because we wanted Sallie as a godmother. Well, we've had a lot of experience together. I got a lot of other stories I could tell, but maybe that's later when the bar's open again. I'll tell plenty of other stories. But Bob, it's been a great ride, and you are my best friend. Thanks.
I have to open your birthday card because, and I was tortured with she made this by hand. This is, you can't tell, Bobby when he was young. No, it wasn't for him in '57, but she did make this poem. Although, hearing the stories about you in the chapel, were they made with beer cans? Because the stories that I heard about the making of the chapel were interesting. Yeah, exactly, from my brother. All right, so this is the poem. Obviously, she loves you tremendously to compose a poem. Dear Bobby, look who's turning 50 and still looks mighty nifty. I mean, she's 70, what, 2? What's your It's been a special treat for us to see you accomplish so much. A delightful little boy, a teen you could always enjoy, with a sense of humor anyone would desire. Now the handwriting's interesting. Grown to be a man we admire. You're a wonderful husband and dad, a job well done, we might add. Here's hoping your birthday includes all these: happiness, health, good times, and bright memories. Love, Uncle Bob and Aunt Mary Jane, and they do.
Here's the sister of Bob, Susan, that gets her height wherever Bobby got his height from, I guess. And I tried.
Not just my height, but as the story goes, my nose. He twisted it when I was little, and that's why it looks like that. And I also wanted to, just as an adjunct to someone else who came up and spoke, not all of those pair-offs at the wedding worked out, okay?
Sorry, Jim.
Well, you cannot imagine.
First in an Amanda.
You cannot imagine how fortunate I feel to be up here today roasting Bobby on his 50th birthday. I would particularly like to thank Sallie for giving me this opportunity for which I have waited my lifetime. You have no idea what 30-something years of silence does to a woman. In the... In those early years, Bobby was the great unknown, having left for the academy and when I was still very young. I had only my parents' glowing reports of his achievements on which to base my understanding of him. Naturally, he seemed Herculean to me. I remember writing to him while he was still at USARA, explaining to him that I imagined he had the humor of Dick Van Dyke, the intelligence of Spock, and the brotherly wisdom and counsel of John Boy Walton. When he returned many years later, I realized that I was very close. He had the humor of Spock, the intellect of Jerry Van Dyke, and the only thing he had in common with John Boy were those high-water pants. I will never forget the day I received notification in the mail that I had passed the licensure exam and was now officially a registered nurse in the state of Massachusetts. Then again, what nurse could forget that day? But this day was different for me because my big brother was right there to share that moment. That's nothing! I'm a certified civil engineer. Most people don't even sit for the exam, no less pass it. So, I countered and should have left it at that, but I proceeded without due caution. I made who's who of American junior colleges. And I said, and I showed him the book. Well, I made who's who of American young males. And he shamelessly pulled out his book. Then he started comparing our entries by inches. Mine is 10 inches longer than yours, he exclaimed with excitement. But then again, how many times is he able to explain that? I did not give up, but reached back even farther, trying to top him. In ninth grade, I choreographed the entire musical of Calamity Jane and danced a solo. As a seeming act of concession, he reached out his hand and said, "Congratulations." Then gripping mine firmly pronounced, "I was Wild Bill." Yes, Bobby can be totally smooth when it comes to victories, but what about those gracious losings? I'm sure we all have our memories, but I have the podium. I was 15 when we were at our summer place, 1 Lower County Road in Dennis. I was just sitting down to play $10,000 Pyramid with my cousin Mary, also 15, and my little sister Amy, 14, when Bobby walked in and offered to be a 4th player. Mary and Amy readily gave me over to Bobby as partner. Though I was not known for my keenness back then, Bobby accepted the challenge. Amy and Mary went first. With time remaining, they got all 7 words. Bobby and I drew the topic, things you see at a graduation, things you see at graduation. Bobby opted to give the clues, believing it required the greater intelligence to do so. Further, I was quite confident because I just graduated from St. Joe's, so it should be no problem to me. We sailed through the first 6 words as expected, but upon the last word, the people sit in the pews, the congregation, the church. Oh no! The people sit in the and I'm like, pews, did you hear me say pews? No! As the time ran out, it didn't help that Mary and Amy were laughing as they tapped the sand down. Audience, jeez! Bobby showed great restraint for Bobby and psyched up for the next round. Amy and Mary got 6 out of the 7 the next time, which meant we needed 7 to tie and 6 to lose. We drew common responses. Bobby opted to receive this time. Considering the disaster last time, again we breezed through the first 6. Please, thank you. Thank you. You're welcome. Etc. But there was a word I had never seen before. Well, sound it out. Bobby started to escalate. Well, it's in German. I've never seen it before. Well, sound it out. Look at it. Sound it out. I explained. I've never. It's German. I don't know. Mary and Amy started tapping the sand down. Just to irritate Bobby. Bobby, in short time, was up on his feet, red-faced, spraying. Sound it out, you idiot! You'd have thought Tony Eason just fumbled the snap from the center. As the last grain dropped and Mary sounded the buzzer, Bobby ripped the card out of my hand. Guts on tight! Guts on tight, you idiot! And that is why we are all here too. Help save Bob!
Susan, you left your switch up here.
Brought up my brothers and sisters for the work that they did up there. I know they worked hard on their speeches.
I see you had to hire a sweet
I did. I left out the part about putting your hands in front of your face before you hit the bottom of the pool. So, what becomes, the famous phrase, and, it was gross.
After I hit the bottom of the pool.
It was gross. Yeah, you should not see that, except in your minds.
But did I get 9, Stephanie? Stephanie was the judge, right? Did I get 9 for that? Sorry, get 11.
Now this one I have to tell in anti-Tarantino order. This one I have to tell chronologically. And I love Bobby, as we all do. Bobby hired me to work with him on a new venture, Barton Corporation. And it seemed promising. It was wonderful the first day out, and got a set of plans. Studied them all weekend. We're gonna go lay out the job Monday morning, but not after I pick up my brand new truck, Ford F-150, 1992, whatever, 1989 Ford F-150. I'm trying the new truck smell. It's very, very cool. So we get up to the job site, the site location, right? It says, how are we gonna lay out this building? So while the fronts of the buildings line up at the 72 feet apart. He says, no. He says the square root of pi times the cosine of the tangent of the 3/4 of the thing. He says, Bobby, the fronts of the building line up at the 72 feet apart. Lest you proceed in your Salliness. So I spent the last 16 years trying to figure out if I had been complimented, and I think I have. So with that, let's all enjoy 1 minute of silent conclusion to my speech. And thank you, Sallie, for making this available to us.
I was a civil engineer, Barb was a civil engineer, Ernie was a civil engineer, and we all graduated and we went off to different points of the globe. And 2 years later, we all got a letter. It says, would you like to come to the Air Force Institute of Technology and get a master's degree in engineering management for free? Get paid a salary for going to school. And Bart said, yeah. And Ernie said, yeah. And I said, can I apply next year? And they called me up and they said, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I said, well, you know, 4 years at a military academy, and I'm at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and I'm doing pretty good. So this turns out to be the best decision of my life because I met my wife during that time period, and I got to bring her up and overlapped with Barton and Ernie for 3 months of the summer. It was also a bad decision because I lost 12 months with Bob Barton, and I mean that. So I'm not good at roasting. I'm sorry, Bobby, but it was a good time. We were broke. We were happy, and card games have come up. You know, we're talking about board games here. Man, did we play some board games? Let me tell you how Bob wins. He cheats. That's all there is to it. I'm telling you. You remember, don't you, Sallie? He's going to win, one way or the other. So and I'm getting some context here. I don't know the family as well as everybody, but I'm starting to understand.
Uncle Bob.
Yeah. I mean, this is really helping me understand much better what was going on during those times. But they were good years. We were young. We were broke. Jenny, you were there. Bobby, you weren't. But yeah, it was fun. And then we graduated and moved on, and Bart left me, but we stayed connected because I was smart enough to make him and Sallie the godparents of my daughter Melanie. And I'm happy to say that ever since that we did that, every Christmas morning we spend it with the Bartons. When we open their gift, we think of them and then we call them. And it's really, really been a good ride, and I appreciate that very much. And Bart, I tell you what you've taught me. You know, you went to the Air Force Academy, you had that time in the military, you're the oldest in the family, it's all about leadership. And your leadership model is the best one I've ever seen. Laughter and love. Laughter and love.
I need a prop. Bob and I go back a long ways, like you've already heard. 33, 30, some odd, who knows how many years. It's been a long time. Since 76, I guess, when I first met Bob. But anyway, one of my fondest memories, and a lot of this kind of deals with, he's got this Catholic background, so that's a little funny. I'm a fighter pilot, so I'm really very careful about my manhood, you know, and being a man's man and things like that. So my wife and I were living on the Cape a few years ago, back in the late 90s, and we invite Bob and Sallie to come down. We picked up the lighthouse in Martha's Vineyard, a Coast Guard lighthouse. We invite them down. We're out for the evening, driving around Martha's Vineyard, having a great time. We stopped and we've had a beer or two, maybe, or 4, 10, or I don't know. But anyway, I'm driving, I pull off the side of the road. There's this kind of a fishing wharf area thing going on, and a couple of big, burly, you know, men, you know, dealing with the fishing nets and that sort of stuff. Well, I've just gone out there to look and see what they're doing. And Bob and Sallie and my wife Cindy are back in the car, and all of a sudden, I hear this voice, this very falsetto voice. Oh, Eric! Oh, Eric! Out comes Bob. He's taking his sweater. He's tied it around his shoulders like this. And he's pressing comes up to me, wraps his arms around me, and gives me the biggest, smoochiest hug in the world. So I think it's all from that Monsignor thing. But you're a true man's man, Bobby. You're a great friend, buddy.
You have to understand, the neighborhood gets to see a different side of Bob. Jen, can you bring up that picture? They have captured him at his very best. Okay.
Bossy, I was supposed to be at work on this picture.
Cut out early to get it done. Bob is our resident plumber in the neighborhood, and thank goodness we have one, because we have more floods in our house than anybody, I think. And we can... All right, Bob.
That's a new lawnmower too, right?
Is that on focus?
Well, I think we all appreciate Bob in the neighborhood, and I appreciate him both for his professional and also his personal. Professional, he did a great service to me, designed my septic system, which I'm very appreciative of. Until one day I'm looking for my yard, and he's in his yard doing this. So I go over with a beer and I said, what the hell are you doing? He said, I'm trying to find the cover to my septic system. And that's sort of the truth, you know? And then there's another story I can relate to. You know, I mean, he's always mowing his lawn. And we always say, what the hell? He sweats his you-know-what off doing it. And then he waters the damn thing to mow it 2 days later. You know, we appreciate the drought. Hell, we haven't mowed in a month. But there is one little story. And unfortunately, one of the neighbors isn't here anymore. But I was cleaning out my storage area and grabbed my chainsaw. And looked across the street and I said, boy, I'm sick of looking at that dead tree. So I proceeded to go over there and I cut his tree down. I mean, in the respect that I cut it into what, log size? I even raked everything up, went across the street and said, where the hell is he now, you know? I even put a free wood sign out there. And I said, man, no one's coming out. There's a radio on the back porch that was playing. Come to find out, he'd gone off to a meeting. His wife was in the house apparently in a coma because he came home and looked at the tree. He said, Sallie, what the hell were you doing? There was a chainsaw running out in his yard, you know? And by that time I had gone home, and Bob, with a sense of humor, looked at our neighbor, Abel, and he says, well, I'll make it sort of polite, like, you know who the hell cut my tree down? You know, and then at that point, I came out and I said, what's the problem here? And he says, somebody cut my tree down. And now here's Abel. He watched me do the whole damn thing. And he didn't dare say anything. So I figured, well, hell, if he's not going to say anything, we played along with, what, about 20 minutes. Until we figured, oh, this guy's going to have a heart attack. But that's sort of the neighborhood we are. You know, we like each other. We're close enough to be friends, far enough to be private, too. And that's what I'd like to say. I've hit 50. It didn't kill me. I wasn't as gray as you at 50. But then again, you can run a lot longer than I can. So I'm not going to upset you because you'll catch me in a hurry. Okay? Thank you.
Are you ready to say a few words?
That's you.
Bob the senior.
We already had the prayer, right?
We prayed when you weren't here.
Prayer has already been said.
I didn't hear grace. Alright. Now you gotta know I put this together in all seriousness because my poor wife was...
Use the microphone.
Or not. I am unfolding the thing. Is that you, Penny? Stand up. Stand up. You know, my sons love me. I understand. But I thank God for my girls.
Sorry, don't clap.
The first thing I have to say is Mom could not be here since she had a knee replacement on Tuesday and just took her to the rehab center and she'll be learning how to handle her knee. She's doing very well and sends her best to all. what I want to really go through is a little bit of, you know, as a father, I can remember him when he was sort of a thought in my mind, you know.
On a Friday night.
And we went down the aisle, Mom and I, in 1955 on her 20th birthday, because I was not going to marry a teenager. Right? But anyway, we were making a lot of money. I was making 40 a week as a co-op at Northeastern, and she was making something about the same. And he was born on Valentine's Day in '57. 23 hours of waiting in the room. We weren't allowed, thank God, to get back in that room. He arrived 20...
Stephanie's heckling. Stephanie's heckling.
Stephanie's heckling.
Who are you?
My daughters are picking on me now. 23 hours of labor before he decided to come, you know. And I was beat, but Mom was fine. In other words, but I do want to tell a little bit about the military aspect of why I love the military. I was God's gift to the military in 1957 when I graduated and went down to Fort Belvoir, Virginia to become God's gift to the Army. And Mom come down with this 5-month-old little child here. And she got ill and had ruptured cysts on her ovaries and peritonitis set in, and the doctors are there and they're saying, well, you know, if we don't operate, she dies. I said, well, that's very nice. And then one doctor handed the other guy a death certificate. He says, you know, the woman, your patient, I took care of, she died. Oh, I got one for you. You know, the gunshot wound, your patient, I tried, he died too. Now, do you want to sign, Mr. Barton, to operate on your wife? So, I'm in there playing soldier as a cadet, going to go for his lieutenancy, right? And I needed a car, and my mother had driven down Stephanie and the baby, and so I needed the car, and she wouldn't fly. I said, you're flying, you're going back. And so she went back, and they were going to impound the car, and I told the Master Sergeant in command, you know what you can do with the Army, and the whole thing. He then produced the sticker so I could go and meet her after I played. So that's what let me think that Bob was really a good candidate for the armed services when he wanted to go. The next thing is I call it the follower. He was a great kid. I mean, a real kid. He would do everything he wanted. 5 years old, I could count on Bobby to lead the troops. One day I come home and I find out this horror story where he and some fellow Attleboro people now, that were in Brighton at that time, led him and his brother Kenny down to the river, down across the railroad tracks, which are the Boston and Albany railroad tracks. They're down there at 5 and 4 years old. And I think I became absolutely dread and fear. So he needed a lesson in following orders and obeying. It was, I think, the severest spanking Bobby ever got. From then on, he never... That may be oldie, but you know the old thing about straightening out? When you get to the lower back and you spank that pad there, it straightens, well, and then he had...
You worked for it.
All I have to say...
He remembers his pants were down.
No, because I would be in jail in today's world, you know, if whatever.
Yes.
Kids need love and direction, and sometimes it's hugs and pats, pats on the back, and you get lower and lower as they get more contrary. I would say this about Bobby. Bobby would always try to do what you told him to do. And if he found out it wasn't really going, he'd come back to you. And then you'd, make adjustments and he would follow. So I was really amazed at that. And I would say that that's the way Bobby grew up. He one time, some of the things that he would do is this same family that taught him how to get down to the river, taught him how to ride a tricycle down the concrete stairs in front of Bigelow Street. Now, the kid that was doing it was a little bigger, a little taller, but Bobby says, I can do that. So Bobby rides down the tricycle down these concrete stairs, boom, boom, big lumps and everything.
And he was the smart son?
Yeah. He was our leader. And what he didn't notice was the kid was walking the bike down because he was taller. And he was walking it down. Bobby just rode it. Little different. When he was 7, he comes home and he says, hey, they're signing up for Pop Warner football. This was his football career starting out. I get on the field and it's mayhem, and so I ended up helping reorganize Pop Warner football, and I became the C and the D coach. And Bobby was one of my star performers, and I am there with my C and D team there, and the little kid got up because I had sent some kids around for not paying attention, including him, doing laps. And so the little hand goes up, Mr. Barton. Mr. Barton, yes. Is Bobby supposed to be up on the swings? And I look around and after I whispered in Bobby's ear, I think his foot... No, I never did that. I whispered. And his football life began. Now, as the oldest, he had more responsibility, and he really, with every family, the oldest has the most responsibility, but gets the most love because he's got all the love the first year, that type of thing. And
sorry, Kenny. Sorry, we felt every minute of it.
He was always the youngest in his class, up with his peers. At Newman Junior High, all our kids went from this absolute sheltered life of St. Joseph's School for 8th grade, and then over to the public school in the 9th, because they had the 7th, 8th, 9th. And when they got over there, all the cliques were there. So they had to come in at the cliques, and they had to fight their way, every one of them, as did Bobby. But he would try things. And I was amazed at this, because I wouldn't try some of the things I asked him to try. And one of the things was wrestling, and the other one was Calamity Jane. Now, we heard about Wild Bill Hillcock, and he was higher than anything. And his Uncle Bob, who was, I questioned the relative benefit of Uncle Bob in his lessons to my kids. Because he sat there with Kenny and John and young Bobby, his son, and his thing to them was, shut up. It takes guts to get up in front of an audience and sing like that. But I would say this, he was fearless. He thought he was good. His only problem is he's humble. If he can overcome that, it'd be perfect. When we went across country, I must say, the Sutherlands, Uncle Bob, and Mom and I, and the R7 and the F5 took off. We had 2 weekends of testing out the campus. We took off for 9,300 miles across in 28 days. But Bobby, I think he grew a lot. He was about 6 foot at the time, so when we were at Disneyland or anything, we were looking to count the kids. We would always come up with 11, not the 12. It was because he was bigger than most of the grown-ups in the area. But he was a good example for the brothers. In the Air Force Academy influence, I think his driving force for scouts in football was that he knew the Air Force Academy liked sports and they liked scouts and Eagle Scouts. So in his senior year, I could never have done it. But he went through the whole scouts from tenderfoot to Eagle in his high school. And I think that was an amazing thing. And give him a hand for that. Now wrestling. Now I never heard that he was doing wrestling or not much about it. And I come home one day and his mother was absolutely astounded. You should see Bobby. So what happened? Well, he wrestled down in Weymouth. And he was 158, wrestling 185, and he pinned the guy. Pinned the guy in the 3rd period, because the first 2 periods, the guy was trying to pin a wet rag. Couldn't pin him. The guy wore himself out trying to pin him, and Bobby would pin him in the 3rd period. And that was his MO. He would do everything I saw him. He would take down in the 2nd period, but he would always come back and pin these guys. I think he was unusual in that I think he was fearless and he was confident playing the underdog.
Make fun of him.
Say what?
Make fun of him.
I'm his father. When you hear the rest of it, here's a kid that asked me, when is he gonna become junior? I mean, you know, are you speaking out now? High school football. He wasn't the best athlete, but I think he was among the most determined and aggressive. At 158 pounds, he was starting offensive center as a 15-year-old junior and made the All-Star team. And he was the only kid in the team that made the All-Star team. And you know, one game, the first game he got in, I was coming down behind the bench and I tripped and I hit him on the head, and he thought I really meant it, and I never really meant that, you know. He thought I even got angry, and I wasn't angry. But he went out and put the 220-pound nose guard that he was up against out of the game. And he proceeded to repeat that during his whole 15-year-old junior year and became the only all-star on the Needham team. The biggest thing about Bobby, and this was the biggest challenge, was he was benched in his senior year after becoming the only returning all-star, and he was benched because of the incident that Amy referred to. He smashed his head in the pool, cut it open, broke his nose, broke his chin, and he couldn't wear a helmet until he did get it cured by the first game, and the coach wouldn't play him. Wouldn't play him for 4 games, and they lost every game. And then he put him in, and they won the next 4 games, and in the final game of the season, they went down, and they were going down for the winning touchdown. They had scored 3 or 4 touchdowns through Bob's hole, and the coach says, well, we'll go off tackle. And he never made the thing and lost the game. Before the academy, and Ernie mentioned going to those meetings, and there was a liaison officer who was a fighter pilot, in the reserves. And he come to me after Bobby was accepted, and he says he'll never make it. I said, why do you say he'll never make it? He says, because you're pushing him into the Air Force Academy. I said, you couldn't be further from the truth. I tried to get Bobby not to go, and if he was going to go to an academy, go to the Coast Guard Academy so he could run my boat when I bought one. I mean, I couldn't picture myself with a fighter plane, you know? So my early observations of the service that I got at Fort Belvoir, Virginia, I still believe it's a tough life to be in the service and absolutely have a good family life. But I would say this, and Amy mentioned that I had tears in my eyes when he boarded the plane. And what I didn't know, and this is how much Bobby relied on his faith to get him through the academy and live his life thereafter. I think he was a good guy going in, but I think he got a great guy coming out. And his top commander, squadron commander, was made in spite of our advice, not because of it.
He didn't listen to me either. That's
Right. And
He married a superior officer.
funny you should say that, because I have those exact words written in my thing, and because I told you, oh,
You told me all your life.
absolutely.
Yeah, but she was
But
Saluted her every night.
hey, you're still number 3. All right? Now, well, I would say everybody heard the story about the stickers. Did you hear the story about the stickers?
Please tell the story.
Please tell the story about the stickers. When I was diagnosed with cancer 8 years ago,
We could afford this party.
right? That was in June, so we have always had a July 4th party, so I go out and I bought a brand new barbecue for the party. And I go out and there's a yellow stickum on the barbecue and it says Bobby. I go into the garage and there is my brand new Ryder mower and there's another yellow sticker on a Kenny. I go out to my car and on my driver's window there's another sticker, Johnny. They were claiming the goods before the body was cold. Gives you that warm, fuzzy feeling about my 3 boys. And since he is the oldest and was the leader, he can say what he wants, but that was his deal. All right, now we get to Sallie, Jennifer, and Bobby, no, Junior, 3.
5 minutes, right?
Bobby, one more. He was fortunate to marry above his station. He was a mere second lieutenant and he married a captain. Sallie chose to be at home and be a wife, mother, and homemaker. Very good choice. Give Sallie a hand. It took Bobby to get young Bobby, the 4th or 5th, whatever, Bobby 3rd, oh sorry. And he was sent to Alaska for his remote duty about a month after Bobby was born, was that right? That really sealed him on the military. His feet were headed out. And his love for Sallie and the kids is shown in all that Bobby has done. His love for Jesus has also been a hallmark. I stopped running with my kids when I was in the C Squad. Bobby and Jenny still do it. He has stayed in shape. But I can match his percentage fat with my percentage muscle. but he has worked on every aspect of God, Sallie, the kids, family, friends, and work. His professional career, he has given Jesus all the credit for his lovely wife, family, and his successes at the various stops along. Took me till I was 60 to realize that's where it's at. He has been part of my spiritual education. The way he gives God credit for what he has done in his family, I think is inspirational. He's a fine man and he's a fine Catholic. We love him and Sallie, all our children, spouses, and their spouses, grandchildren, spouses, great-grandchildren, and our friends and relatives, right after the Trinity of the Church. May Bobby and Sallie have 50 more great years to watch their family grow in grace and love of God. Also know that on the 7/7 of this year, 07, there's going to be a reunion of the Quebec, Barton, Purcell, and Gilly families up in Derry, which Kenny has not sent out the letters yet. Have you, Kenny?
No solicitation.
No, sir. No, sir. That's the only. Yes, sir. No, sir. No excuse, sir. Well, God bless you all for coming, and he is our son, and we love him.
The day up.
You got the scallops?
So did Dad. So did Dad.
You guys know what the hell a roast is? What are you going to say to him when he's, retired? Huh? Oh, you love muffins. The premise of a roast is Bobby sucks. Right? You start with Bobby sucks and you keep going down. All this love shit. I only use expletives because I have Tourette syndrome. I'm trying to kick the habit. What happened to church lady? Is that Meg?
Oh my God.
Thank God for this thing.
I'll be the church lady.
Last week I decided to give my life over to Jesus. Now I turned it back around. I'm back on my winning ways. Since my mother's not here, that's why we're doing the video, not the guy. So Mom can enjoy it. Mom, hold your head, hold your ears. There's a lot of, I do have to say a couple of things though. Listening to you people. First of all, Susan. Who's the poor bastard that lost a lifetime with you at the wedding? I felt bad. That whole Uncle Bob thing about Bob singing, holy shit. I think what he said, it took balls to do that. Real balls.
Bob would jump up and kick his ass.
We're alone.
Drink it out.
It's curious that Meg referred to Bobby as being the one that likes to teach the 8th graders, and I figured that's about right. That's about right. I got a 7th grader. We're going to be doing giving Bobby a wide berth in the next few years, so she gets out of the 8th grade. All right. I got to ask this stuff, man. Nobody else can know it. Amy makes the point that, Bobby, being the stud that he was, made it difficult for the rest of us. I guess Amy was the only one who gave a shit about competing with him. I was left to carry the torch for mediocrity in the family. I did my damnedest until Kathy came along. Got her degree. Screw him. We'll get him back as people start dying. Yeah? Who ate Bobby's cookies? You did? I helped make those. Yeah, you bet. Some of my best. By the way, Sallie, our fish is floating on top of the water. What the hell is that? So all of you people have this beautiful view of who Bobby was, and I'm the only one who was there to watch him suck most of his early years, so I thought it would be my job to share. But first of all, I have to tell a story. Any ladies in the room? No? Okay. Ever since Bob came home from the Air Force Academy, we've made it a point to get together regularly. I think we're up to, what, 3 lunches? Your marriage is strong, right? This will survive? Bob and I went into a restaurant to have lunch. Do I have to hold this close? Yes. Amy, could you come hold it? You know, Amy did say that she was the brightest. She works for me. So much for brightness. Anyway, so we went to a restaurant, not a sandwich shop, because, you know, Bobby, you know, she likes Sallie, right? Sallie's very frugal, so I can't spend the dough. Which, by the way, I have a fundraiser tonight that half the family can't come to because of here, so we're going to start passing a hat. Anyway, so Bobby and I walk into the restaurant, and there's a sign above the bar, and it says cheeseburger, $1.50, hamburger, $2.50, chicken sandwich, $2.50. It's key. We'll ruin the whole joke. And then underneath it says hand job, $10. So I'm like, oh, holy shit! I look over to Bobby, and I said, hey, Bobby's flipping through his wallet, looking to see how much beer money he had left from breakfast. And we look over, and there's this nice-looking lady. She says, "Can I help you?" So, yeah. You know, Bobby says, "Hey, are you the lady that does that?" She says, "Yeah." Bobby says, "Could you wash your hands? I want a hamburger." Church guy, you know. The jury's still out on me. Let's see. I wrote some stuff one night, and I didn't look at it until today. Doesn't look so good anymore. Let's see. I kind of took a tack. You know, a lot of people know Bobby from the transformation on. A whole shitload of stuff that went on before Bobby turned cool. And this shit put a lot of pressure on me. As a cool guy, I had to watch him pave the way with his uncoolness. And so, you know, I look at the things that Bob did that I wouldn't touch. You know, one of the things that he did was, you know, back in 8th grade, he decided that he was going to be a orator. So he goes in, he does this speech about racism and all this other shit. So we have to go to CM, Catholic Memorial, and sit for a weekend and watch him say the same damn speech 20 times. As he moved up the ranks and eventually took 9th. What did you? But I have no idea. All I know is that he was the only guy that was for racism in the whole place. I thought it was interesting. And people talk about Calamity Jane, but you don't realize what a piece of crap that was. This guy, your man's man, turned into a marshmallow when he found out, oh, Bobby's got the lead in the play. All of a sudden, he's Mr. Proud. So the son's a faggot. He's going to be an actor. And you're proud. And then he says, Kenny, you should get in the play. You right there, Pop. But he gets into this play, no shit. I'm pretty sure it's because he was the only guy that was over 6'4", and but he has the lead in the play, Calamity Jane. He played Jane. So I assumed. I got confused. But I have to tell you that, he played Wild Bill Hickok opposite Harriet Mermes, who, in my estimation, is Newman Junior High's answer to Boy George. If you ever saw Calamity Jane in the movies, that's Doris Day. That's Calamity Jane. You ever see Calamity Jane in the history books? That's Harriet Mermes. Yeah. Different people. Bob had to kiss Harriet Mermes. That's not cool. Was it, Bob? No, it wasn't cool. Sorry. For me, too. People say that he had no voice. They don't tell it like it is. Bobby had a voice. It sucked. I will try my best to replicate Bobby's solo. I mean, I watched my brother with freaking eyes on. He comes up, he's got the mascara, he says, my love is higher than a heart, deeper than a well. Am I right? Those are the words. All alone. I gotta tell you, I shivered. Now, you gotta know, I'm following this guy. I mean, people know him. And then it's Bobby's brother. I'm screwed. Yeah? So, I'm not going to talk about Bobby's all-star career because Dad, in his attack on Bobby, viciously assaulted him. Yeah. So, nice going there. Ripped him a new one, huh? Well, all those games for Needham High, they all ran through your hole. I know that Johnny had a better recollection of this this pool diving thing. I never knew really how he got to the point where he thought it was a good idea to go nose diving into the floor of the pool. But do you remember who Granddad thought it was? Oh yeah, Israel? Yeah, the black guy. We had a Nigerian Boy Scout that came by somehow. I don't know who invited him, but somehow he ended up right? Nice. Scout leader. Like your roommate in college with the window. But I will say, but Granddad was the consummate racist. He probably wrote Bobby's speech in 8th grade. Bobby was anti-racism at the time. I don't know if anything's changed. But it was funny because Granddad just, without missing a step, he goes, Israel did it. I was all bloody. Clear up who Granddad is. Who Granddad? Yeah, you. Dad's father. Affectionately known as Granddad. Now, I'm going to venture into some dark areas here. I have some swear words as only Bobby could tell it, or as Bobby could say it. Bob comes back from the Air Force Academy. All right, he left very uncool, as he should have. He came back very uncool with a twang. Remember this? We played. He came back for Thanksgiving, and he came back, and we're playing tag football at the Needham High School field. And I hear him launching on Johnny, right? Because you dropped the ball.
No, I threw the ball to him.
You threw the ball, you didn't throw it to him.
You don't
Well,
have to
anyway,
throw the ball to Bobby.
but in Boston, some of you I've heard say, different words. In this case, baka. You know what it means? Bobby Bobby comes back from the Air Force Academy, and he's got this, you goddamn fuckers. And I said, hey, Tex, when did you get the, where are you coming from? All right. All of a sudden, you goddamn fuckers. What the hell is that? So, but you know, Bob is, and I jumped back before the Air Force Academy, but one of Bob's last things that he did was he decided that he was going to be a hot ticket because he had his license and take me and, was it John Naughton? Yeah, we went to the Red Sox game. Okay, so we went to the Red Sox game, and you hadn't morphed into this Uber fan yet. You were just kind of dancing on the fringes, right? Because you sucked at baseball. I'm helping you guys. You got to get some perspective here. So anyway, he takes us to Fenway, and he has good seats. I don't know where the hell he got them, but we're sitting, you know, about 10 people there. It's only $3 people there. Yeah, that's right, yeah. And we still managed to get in the back row. Right. But anyway, Bob is launching into this, you know, Yastrzemski, you suck! Now, Yastrzemski, only the most popular player on the Red Sox, right? But he's all alone there. He's got these insights that no one else sees. You suck! Yastrzemski, you suck! You piece of shit! Okay. Now, I'm getting uncomfortable because this chick is in front of us. So I'm starting to think, this isn't right. So I nudged Bobby, I said, that's Carl Yastrzemski's wife. I never saw a guy turn so lamb-like. All of a sudden, he's, ooh. Yeah, I saw her in a commercial. Oh, shit, oh, goodness. Well, for 3 innings, he shut his mouth. And it was the best 3 innings. It was so relaxing, and I said, yeah, that's good. So we're on our way out. They said, I can't believe we're next to Yastrzemski's wife. I'm like, no, I might have stretched that one. Next thing you know, I'll never take you to that goddamn game. Shit, I don't know. Well, anyway, you were an angry dude. It was shocking. That's right. That was the funny part. You're up there and standing up as tall as you can. Ooh! You could have booed that guy gets up to the plate. The crowd's quiet. He's oh, woo! What's wrong with this guy? So anyway, let's see. Yeah, that's out of order. Okay, so here we go to the wedding. Do I have this name right? Kevin Reinhardt? Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right, so we get to the wedding, and Bob was always, you know, it's not cool, no. Well, I'm going to tell you a quick not cool story. Bob decided somewhere along the line, this is legacy to the Needham High School class of '74, that he was going to set the record for keeping the water fountain on in the cafeteria. Now I'm here, you know, as a sophomore, watching my senior brother holding the fountain, and teachers going up to him, what are you doing? Set the record. I'm pretty sure that's not on the books. I'm not sure if it's even a record, because I'm sure there was an ass somewhere along the line in the past 53 years of Needham High School that had that record. I didn't know it was on the books. I didn't know that he was going to score. But I sat there through 3 study halls going, my God, he's my brother. That's insane. You know? Am I right? Go ahead. Yeah. I wanted to know this up. And you were. Who's who? Oh yeah, well, you know, but see, that doesn't read well. That makes Bob look assaultive. But no. It's this love I do this. I do this with love. I gotta, you know, all my pages fell apart, so I'm gonna go back. What was I telling you? I was telling Reinhardt. What the heck? Here's this guy who's following around like that little dog in the cartoons, yelling, hey, Copper, hey, can I be a buddy? Bobby's walking from room to room. He's like, can I come to the wedding? Can I come to the wedding? I said, Bobby's like, bullshit. And I'm thinking, you're kidding, right? Bobby wasn't kidding. He's got his roommate right there, 15 yards from the chapel. He was not letting him go to the wedding. come to find out later that the guy was a Yankee fan, right? I didn't know when you morphed over to where you couldn't stomach a Yankee fan in the same room, but holy cow. But I've never seen a guy sell his soul like this Reinhardt guy to try and get to, I'm coming anyway, I'm coming anyway, I'm going to come. Or the hell you are. You're cool, you're very cruel, buddy. But anyway, I'm going to be done roasting Bob here pretty soon. But, let me just see if I got a couple of things for you. These pages are stuck. Well, you know, I mean, I did say that I was carrying the torch for mediocrity, and it was true. You know, Bob was the guy that studied hard, did well in grade school. I studied not so much, pulled a grade, but, you know, not like Bob. Bob tried out and got the lead in the 9th grade musical. I flunked singing in 4th grade. Bob was a self-made Eagle Scout. I had to leave Troop 7 and go to the Troop 2, which was the Eagle Factory, to avoid being a second-class scout, if anybody knows what that is. I got my Eagle in a year, with stamping them out. I went to the Air Force Academy and saved Dad thousands of dollars in tuition.
Oh, they had nothing to do with
Oh, shut up. I stayed in accordion lessons long enough to have Dad pay $600 for an accordion and quit later that year. He's still bitching about it. There we go. I quit the day after. It was the very day after. He's still bitching about that. That's $600. I got it in my pocket. All right. Bobby graduated the Air Force Academy as the outstanding squadron commander for his class, went on to be #1 in his Air Force Academy's grad school. I dropped out of Northeastern after spending a few years on academic probation. I can't tell my daughter this story. She thinks I'm still good. Yeah. She is, you're not. We're having a roast with a bunch of newbies that don't know me from it. All right. You know, he's always one-upping me. By the time Bob turned 50, he had buried 3 companies. I'm still working on 1. So you see, he's always managed to outdo me. But it is true that Bob was not cool. Pure and simple, he was not a cool man. He earned whatever he got, and nothing ever came easy. It came. You an English teacher? But, you know, you look at Bob, and what made Bob uncool back then to me was that he was trying so hard to do the right thing, to do it. You know, nothing ever looks cool when you're trying. It only looks cool when you don't give a shit. Which was me. So, you know, I look cool right on through. I didn't accomplish anything, but I did look cool. It's like Clint Eastwood shooting somebody, you know. He looks cool, doesn't care. Right? The guy that shot the kid that shot the other, not cool. Right? I didn't give a shit. But you know, Bob turned out to be a great guy. It was a lot of fun. We've had a good time. You are a cool guy. Success is cool.
After those invitations went out, the restaurant, which was the host company #6, called me and said, can you change your birthday party? I said, no. I just sent out 40 invitations. I can't change it. They said, well, we started booking for our feast night, Saturday night. So I had to go back to the drawing board. I guess one of the things I want to advise you is if you ever throw a party, surprise or not, you need to make an invitation list. So when you have to go back and send an update, you know who to send it to. Somebody is going to be going to host company #6 tonight at 6 o'clock.
Maybe we should go there.
We should go there. Okay. All right. Last but not least, his children have created a skit, I guess is the best word, after being raised under his leadership and his love, his guidance. They have their own school of Bob Barton.
Hello class, and welcome to the Bob Barton School of Parenting. For today's first lesson, I'd like to address the very important issue of sporting dominance. Today we will learn the finely tuned art of appearing physically and athletically dominant to your children while actually possessing minimal athletic ability. Now, chances are you will pass this genetic disability on to your children, so this task may be easy. But remember, with age, the task becomes more difficult. However, with a few tricks, your kids will be in awe of your prowess. Lesson 1, exerting dominance over your son. Now the key here is to get in his head early by a constant barrage of harassment beginning at an early age. For example, never let him forget that he was the last strikeout of the last game of his Little League season.
Wait, isn't that cruel?
Next question.
Seriously, isn't that cruel?
Short term, perhaps, but long term?
How long up in the top of the bell tower, the semi-automatic?
Yeah. Besides, eventually he's going to grow up. What do you do then?
Ah, excellent question. The next step is to instigate a wrestling match where your son is fully matured physically, for instance at his confirmation. After barely escaping with victory, announce your retirement for confirmation.
How will you maintain your dominance?
The final phase of the plan is to live vicariously in the bleachers of the Adderall High School football field. Be sure to yell out loud and obnoxious comments. Absolutely. If you're doing it right, everyone in town will recognize you as that obnoxious parent in the stands. You may even get charged to lead a petition to have the coach fired.
Isn't that actually embarrassing for your children?
Nah, it's obvious from what you're shouting that you know what you're talking about. Clearly you can do a better job.
Do you have any experience coaching?
By definition, as a parent, I am also a coach. They can hear every word from the stands. Actual titles mean nothing. Although I did spend a season coaching the girls' soccer, although we all know that was meaningless. Yeah, girls' soccer. Though I do also have experience as a football coach.
Football coach? You must have racked up a lot of wins there.
Yeah. Let's move on.
So really, how many wins?
I said let's move on. Now, another key to maintaining your dominance. Another key to maintaining your dominance is filming all athletic events along with commentary depicting any and all mistakes made. That way dominance can be enjoyed for years to come. Alright class, I think it's time to move on to lesson 2, exerting dominance over your daughter. There's nothing worse than being defeated by a highly athletic daughter. I mean, she is, after all, a girl, and by definition, athletically inferior. If, however, you follow my simple 3-step plan, you will be guaranteed to avoid embarrassment. Step 1. Pick a non-contact sport like running. It's bad enough that your son may be able to physically dominate you. So step 2. Pre-run activities. Selection of the time to go on a little race is an important factor. Plan ahead. Take your daughter out to a large hearty breakfast while sneakily only eating a little bit. And suggest a race immediately afterwards. She'll be too sluggish for breakfast to put in a full effort. Alternatively, when she's older, pick a morning you know she'll be hungover. Step 3. Getting beat during the race? Just fake an injury. I staked the infamous Pennsylvania race of 1998. I was getting beat pretty bad, so I faked like I rolled my ankle off the road. To sweeten the deal, I claimed that it was my daughter who pushed me.
That way you not only avoid embarrassment, but you make it look like she cheated to avoid defeat.
Exactly. Remember, class, it's not about actually being dominant, it's about making people believe it.
So when you get up there about 50, are there any other options?
The last option here is to tamper with the results. For instance, if you're running a road race, swap the ID tag so that the computer readout shows you as the victor. No one can argue with the computer. Now class, even though we've worked hard on learning how to thoroughly squash our children's athletic confidence, it's important to maintain what physical ability we have in order to continue the perceived domination well into our 50s. Because you will no longer be able to compete with your children, pick an inanimate object, like a Stairmaster at your local YMCA. The biggest key here is to drink obscene amounts of water before exercising. Wrong. Drinking obscene amounts of water will cause you to perspire just as obnoxiously. Not only does this give the impression of your tireless workout ethic, but also ensures that no one will come and try to take your machine. Plus, it's fun to confuse the YMCA staff into thinking there's a hole in the roof. Well, class, that ends today's lessons in sporting dominance. Next week, we'll focus on the importance of workout attire. So I want 500 words from each of you on the benefits of wearing old, decrepit clothing to display how tough and gritty you can be. Alright, we're going to move on to lesson 2 here. Passing on good driving habits. Like most things in life, the most effective way to teach your kids to become good drivers is by example. I like to call my method Bob's aggressive driving behavior.
I thought you were supposed to teach your kids defensive driving habits.
Nonsense. I always say the best defense is a good offense. Let's move on to the first rule. Rule 1, buy the biggest and most boat-like car you can find. This will allow you to burn a maximum amount of gas while terrorizing the poor Jetta driving in front of you. The closer your car looks to a state trooper, the better.
Do you have to get the cloth exterior?
Absolutely. Your car needs to say I could be a cop or a pimp. Perhaps both. Your kids will appreciate that.
What about a GPS system?
Nah, that borders on stopping to ask for directions. You don't want to teach your son those kind of habits. Besides, that's what wives are for. Which brings me to my next rule. Always blame someone else when you miss a turn. They should have been on the ball. It's not your job to watch the road.
If we're not watching the road, what should we do?
Concentrate on diverting the enemy, which brings me to rule 3. Never let the other drivers know what you're thinking. If God intended the enemy to know what you were doing, you would have put turn signals on the car. You won't find any on my car. I had them removed.
It seems a little dangerous.
Listen, they're utterly useless. By the time the other driver sees your signal, you'll be in front of them anyway. Let's move on to parking. Rule 4, when parallel parking, only choose spaces that are smaller than your vehicle. Adequately sized spaces are for the weak. Rule 5, never park in a parking garage in Boston. Instead, spend a ridiculous amount of time searching for a meter, and then don't pay it. Listen, paying parking tickets is just like the speed limit, merely a suggestion. I have unpaid tickets in several states.
So, what should you do if you get pulled over?
Well, first when the officer asks, do you know how fast you were going? Do not answer. This is a trick.
What if the officer really presses you?
If you're down south, start whistling Dixie. If you're in New England, tell them you hate the Yankees. If you're in New York, bite the bullet and tell them you hate the Yankees. You should take care of it. Whatever happens, do not divulge the true answer.
What if a driver cuts me off? What should I do?
Well, first, take a deep breath. This should give you the lung strength to string together a long volley of creative obscenities. This also works for people who drive too slow, change lanes without any logical reason, or just happen to be driving in the same road as you.
What will this accomplish?
While it is true that the other driver will never actually hear any of this, your kids will. Soon they'll be the most popular kids in the back of the school bus.
My kids sometimes call me asking for directions.
If your kids ask for directions, never give them the easy, direct route. It's far better to use your much shorter, faster route, which consists of backcountry horse trails, portions of the sidewalk, and bits of the old Underground Railroad. And remember, all locations are characterized by their direction and distance from Fenway.
What if you don't know where Fenway is?
Then you're no longer allowed in my class. Lastly, the best way to teach your children important driving lessons is to never fly anywhere that's within driving distance.
Can you define driving distance?
Next question?
What about vacations?
It's far better to use 2/3 of your vacation time than enjoy it relaxing. Which reminds me of the next rule. Never trust your gas gauge. Trust your instincts. Just because the needle is on E doesn't mean the tank is empty. So I like to say the tank ain't empty till the fumes are gone and you're coasting into the station.
Well, I usually have to stop for the kids to go to the bathroom.
Completely unacceptable. You need to train your children. There is no room in life for people with weak bladders. Everyone, repeat after me, please. Your gas tank isn't empty. Your kid's tank isn't full. Okay, moving on to lesson 3. Passing down the heartbreaking loyalty to the Red Sox. One of the most important lessons to teach your kids is how to be an effective Red Sox fan. It's not just about winning and losing, it's about life. And no one teaches disappointment and failure better than the Red Sox.
What about Notre Dame?
Well, I suppose...
And Syracuse basketball.
Yeah,
And Needham High School.
Hey, who's teaching this class? All right, lesson 1. Hate the Yankees. Hate the players. Hate the players' families. Hate their dogs.
Wait, isn't this a bit extreme?
I'm not finished. Hate anything with black and white pinstripes, including zebras. Hate the Yes Network for acting like the team is God's gift to sport. Hate the city of New York for supporting them. Hate the city of Yonkers because it sounds close to Yankees. Hate the Yankee Candle Company. And above all, hate Southerners who refer to people in the Northeast as Yankees.
Okay, now isn't that really extreme?
No, remember in the book of Revelation it says, out of the earth came the beast, and it was a dragon with 7 heads, and on each head was a Yankee cap. Pure poetry.
I don't think that's what it said.
Well, that's what mine says. Look, we can't dwell on specifics. We need to move on here. Lesson 2. When at a Red Sox game, never cheer for the good players on your team. It's far more rewarding to spend the energy heckling the bad ones. Also, be sure to make a ton of noise and be as obnoxious as possible.
Won't that really irritate the fans around you?
Yeah, in fact, one will probably ask you to leave. When this happens, promptly turn around and ask the self-appointed librarian. You made a wrong turn and ended up at Symphony Hall instead of Fenway. Speaking of Symphony Hall, let's move on to our next lesson. There is no inappropriate place for a Yankees suck chant.
Even Symphony Hall?
Even St. Peter's, God understands. Lesson 4. Never under any circumstances teach your kids to jump on the Red Sox bandwagon. They'll always end up losing in the end.
Doesn't that mean you're just a fair weather fan?
On the contrary, I'm an experienced, cynical, and grizzled old miser.
What do you do fan of it?
Just simply respond with, so what? They'll just end up blowing it again next year. Lesson 5. Never get to Fenway before the 3rd inning, no matter how close the game is. Always leave by the 7th inning. You could stay, but do you really want to get stuck on the J-Way behind a minivan full of Little Leaguers? Besides, the 7th inning, they stopped selling Mother Lake.
My kids like to do the wave at baseball games. Is this appropriate?
Under no circumstances should you pass this infantile tradition on. This is the cardinal sin of sporting events and should never take place anywhere. Ever.
But people seem to really like it.
These rituals are just there to pacify the fat drunk slob in the bleachers you can't see. I think we're just about out of time for today's lesson. Remember, no matter what team you choose, passing on painful and depressing team loyalty is an important part of your children's development. All right, for our final lesson, lesson 4, raising obedient children. This takes skill, talent, and discipline. This portion of the seminar will be structured as more of a question and answer session. First, we'll start off with the topic of dealing with small children.
What do you do if they throw a tantrum?
Laugh at them. That way they know you're truly in charge.
What do you do to entertain them?
Either toss them around as if it were an Olympic sport, or tickle them until they lose consciousness.
What if this results in injury?
Don't worry, I pulled elbows out of sockets before. They never arrested me.
How do you make holidays such as Christmas especially memorable?
On Christmas morning, lock them in their rooms and then laugh as their confusion turns to extreme panic and not being able to get to their presents.
I don't want to take my family on vacation. You have any ideas?
Well, I really wouldn't venture on vacation out of broadcast distance from Fenway.
I guess that rules out Florida, the Caribbean, Europe.
Why would you want to go there? Oh, and that reminds me, never stay in a hotel that isn't attached to your car.
My son wants to change his name. How should I deal with this?
Refer to your son as Vladimir for a week until he hates himself for ever bringing up the possibility of a name.
How do you get a child to keep her room nice and clean?
Inspire your children to clean their room periodically by periodically entering with an empty trash bag and attempt to throw away anything not found on a shelf or in a toy chest. I mean, just look at my kids. Oh, well, okay, there are a few last-minute emergency techniques that I like to call Plan B.
Love them with all your heart. Support them with every turn.
Tell them how proud you are of them.
I see. Then they'll be proud of you.
And love you with all their heart.
Happy birthday!